Om Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kurume Deva Sarvakareshu Sarvada. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Rudraya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Shri Swami Narayanaya. Sarvamangala Mangalle Shive Sarvartha Sadike Sharanye Trambake Gauri Narayani Namosute. Shri Guru Stotram Akhanda Mangalakaram Vyaptam Yena Characharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Mritam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Shri Sadgurubhyo Namaha. Om. Welcome to Daily Satsang. We are continuing our contemplation on the Atma. The Atma is, of course, it's a word, Sanskrit word. It is referring to the subject, the me, the I, that I am, my own existence. We feel that our existence is the body, and it is. We cannot deny that, nor should we. We also feel that the existence is part of our mind, our mental framework. That is also true. But the body and the mind are in flux. So they are also objects of perception. So we, even in our language, we say my mind, my thoughts, my emotion, my hands, my legs, my feelings, my stomach, my heart, my brain. Me and the body are different just in our language even. So there is an intuitive sense of the me, of what I am actually. Now this is not just an intellectual exercise. There is a realization of the Atma Tattva. The Atma Tattva, Tattva meaning the substance that is the Atma, that realization frees us from every form of pain and suffering that is generated due to the influence of ignorance within the mind. The body is going to experience pain and suffering. The experience of pain and suffering, as well as sukh, happiness, the enjoyments of the world, as I mentioned, as we talked about it before, those experiences are there. They come and go. That's the whole meaning of the word Nitya. That's the whole meaning of the word Anitya that keeps coming up again and again in Vivek Chudamani. Shankaracharya ji is encouraging us to recognize and to really hold on to this word Anitya, that what is impermanent, transient. We kind of, we read that, even I've been talking about it for a while, and we have contemplated on it. It doesn't mean we have internalized the actual truth of what is Anitya. If even that one word is internalized completely, one becomes so free from inside. But how to internalize this? How are these words such as Vairagyam and Anitya and all these ideas that we are talking about, how do we internalize this? Well, that internalization process is sadhana. Internalization of any idea is only possible when we begin to contemplate on its meaning and on the reality behind the simple meaning. So for example, I'll just give my own example. You don't have to go far. In my own life, there were some pretty significant difficulties that happened. And if I continue to think about them and get stuck in them, then I am bringing that to life again and again, and I'm damaging my internal mental structure, my power from within. But if I realize, if I can see it through, okay, these things happen, whatever happened. Now what can I do about that in terms of my vision? Can I see it in a way that I am completely aware of what has happened, how it has happened, why it happened, and in that awareness, I am free from the entanglement of all past experiences, and I am also aware that every experience is anitya. This is a conversation I have to have with myself. Now, to have this conversation with yourself, to begin that process, it is always good to do some bhakti and ask God for blessing. What is the harm in that? Nothing. Any religion, any religious tradition, when we ask God in any form, in any way, or our Guru, or Sadguru, we ask Bhagwan or Bhagwan ke jo bhakta hai, we ask them for blessing before we begin contemplation. That is a very big, important step. So after doing that, after asking for blessing, doing some prarthana, doing some bhajan, doing some kirtan, putting the intention, then sit silently. See, Vedanta is unfolding. Vedanta unfolds in silent contemplation. That is why when we do dialogues, as per the Krishnamurti style dialogues, or if we do Vedantic dialogues, or even we have Manan Chintan on Vedanta, Manan Chintan is not a rapid process. It's not like, okay, quickly go through some verses and repeat some stotras and repeat some mantras and repeat these ideas, and the mind gets convinced, okay, there is this, there is that. We feel we know what it is, and then we move on to the next thing, and then we're back into the same ignorance again. No. It's not like that. Not at all. Each truth of Vedanta unfolds inside us in great silence and patience and faith. Shraddha Saburi. Just as a reference, if you remember, one of the great saints in India who is considered to be a very great saint is the Sai Baba from Shirdi. Shirdi ke Sai Baba. You might have heard of him. And it's in Maharashtra. Shirdi is in Maharashtra. A lot of people are devotees of Shirdi Sai Baba. And one of the things that he mentioned all the time, if you go to any of the temples of Shirdi Sai Baba, every time two words are there. Shraddha, Saburi. Saburi means patience. We don't have patience in life. This is the biggest difficulty we have in everybody's life. We want things immediately. We want even God instantly. We want Brahma Gnan just like that. It's going to just happen somehow. No. It doesn't happen like that. It requires three things. It requires patience, which is saburi. It requires shraddha, faith. Faith in the sense, the word faith is okay, but shraddha is a firm conviction, as we have said in the Vivek Chudamani, as Shankaracharya said. That word vinishaya, we looked at that last time, right? This word here, vinishaya, that's that conviction. Intense conviction that I am the Brahman. Intense conviction that the Brahma Tattva is there. That is Shraddha. And silent contemplation, that is Manan Chintan. If we don't do Manan, then that old expression, in one ear, out the other. That, to prevent that from happening, Sachin is telling himself, I'm not telling anybody this thing. This is only for me. I don't have right to tell anybody anything. This is Manan Chintan is for my own doing. I have to do the Manan Chintan. The Manan Chintan kya hai? What is Manan Chintan? So there are 4 stages beautifully described in Vedanta. We've talked about it before. And there's Shravan, Manan, Nididhyasan, and Sakshatkar. So silent contemplation is the unfolding of the reality. So look at the word anitya. Anitya means that which is temporary, transient, changing. Body is changing all the time. Because it is changing, because it is temporary, we must make the maximum use of that to realize the Brahma Tattvam, to realize that I am the Brahman. That is the highest realization. And when we begin to approach the Atma, there is a divine glow. Jisko hum Brahma Tej kehte hain. That's a really evolved beings. So much power is awakened from within. Divine power is awakened. And there is great saintliness. Jisko sadhuta kehte. Sadhutva kehte. that state of saintliness is cherished in every religious tradition. It doesn't matter what the tradition is. In fact, even if it's not part of religion as such, when we see someone who is having a great saintly quality, we feel something, we feel it inside. ये व्यक्ति बहुत शांत है, ये व्यक्ति बहुत निर्मानी है, ये व्यक्ति में कुछ सद्गुण है, ये व्यक्ति, we feel the presence, isn't it so? So those are the intermediate stages until the Atma is realized. Sadhuta, sense of service, really using one's body and mind for Brahmachintan. All of this is the intermediate stage until the Atma is realized. The Atma is actually who we are. What it is, described in many different ways, as the light of millions of suns. Satchidananda Brahma, divine light, Divya Prakash. It is nothing but joy. It is joy. It is Ananda. But somehow our own mental framework is producing the effects of Sattva Gun, Rajogun, Tamogun because of the causal body. And that is keeping us away from realizing who we are. So Vivek Chudamani, Vachanamrut, Bhagavad Gita, Brahma Sutra, and all the commentaries of the great Acharyas on the Prasthantrayi are all aiming towards this one truth, that you are the Atma, and then to realize the Paramatma also. There is no greater journey one can take than the internal journey. See this word Vairagyam. We're back to this word again. We're looking at verse number 21. Tata Vairagyam Jihasa Darshana Shravanadhibhihi. He's referring to the five senses. But the five senses are bringing in all of the information inside the mind. So Vairagya is at the level of the senses, in that sense that you just stop running after the sansara. But there's Vairagya from the inside also. That internal Vairagya is also deeply implied in this verse when he says Dehadi Brahma Paryante. Wow, it is a phenomenal state that from inside, Vairagya is always inside. Vairagya is a state of phenomenal calmness, steadiness, come what may. One does interact with the world, sometimes with great force and energy, like Arjuna had to. As an example, sometimes the warriors have to act with tremendous force and energy, and they can still have tremendous, great Vairagya. This is an internal evolution. So Vairagya is where our mind is no longer torn apart, or our energy is not torn apart by the pairs of opposites. Dvandatitam Gagana Sadrusham. The pairs of opposites are present everywhere within the world. Harsha, Shoka, Sukha, Dukha. Every kind, Man, Apman, is always going on. Praise, blame. And somebody says something to us that we don't like. I don't like this thing. Doesn't matter how right or wrong that person may be, or even I may be. There's an immediate reaction where energy gets disturbed, and then it gets focused into raga or dvesha. ये बहुत बड़ी बात है. This is very, very it is the thing to realize in Adhyatma. Rag, Dvesha. These are the two biggest obstacles and stumbling blocks to the realization of the Atma and the Paramatma. As long as they are present, there is no possibility of realizing the Atma. Doesn't matter how many scriptures somebody knows, how many bhajans somebody sings, how many yatra somebody does, how many sadhana, it all becomes zero. Yes, there is some sanskar, shubh sanskar hote hai, that's all. Punya hota hai. That's okay. But not as far as the Atma goes. The Atma can never be realized as long as we are in the throes of Raga and Dvesha. Somebody says to Sachin, you are such an amazing person. Like sometimes some of you do say, oh, you're so knowledgeable and aap bahut gyani and aap ye hai and I. Oh, okay, so Sachin thinks he's something. And then a few days later, somebody will say exactly the opposite things. This terrible person, this, that, this. And then I say, oh my God, I'm not like that. Why are they saying this? And we get into the whole battle. These are reactions from within. Praise and blame. When somebody praises us, we may act humble, but our ego gets hold of it right away. Somebody starts blaming us, criticizing us, saying negative things, we get reactive right away. Vairagya is a state, and I'm speaking this for myself. I have no authority or any kind of qualification to tell anybody anything. This is only for me. Whenever katha is done, whenever nirupan is done, it is done for one person is doing that, he's doing it for himself only. And if Sachin forgets that, then Sachin is lost. So that is my prayer always to all the great gurus and Bhagwan, that never happens. So this Vairagya is an inner confidence. The confidence is just there. There's so much energy that is conserved when Vairagya is there. Nobody can disturb your inner wealth when Vairagya is there. Nobody can. Nobody has the power to touch you from the inside. That is the glory of Vairagya. Vairagya mein itni taakat hai ki it's unbelievable, because you are not allowing anybody at any time, in any situation, under any circumstance, to pull your energy away into Raga and Dvesha. And that's solidified Vairagya. Shankaracharya ji is talking about a level of Vairagya that is so intense that all the way up to Brahmaji, outside this world, into the transcendental worlds, one is not attracted or attached to anything, drawn into anything, all the way up to the world of Brahmaji. Dehadi Brahma Paryante. Start the word of Deha. From the physical body, this physical body and its experiences, all the way to the Brahmaloka, where Brahmaji actually exists. What a statement this is. This cannot be spoken by a human being, this verse. This can only be spoken by an incarnation of God. Nobody can even imagine this kind of a sentence. That is the intense truth hidden within it. When we are evolving from within, and we have real Vairagya just in this world, 100% Vairagya of this world, that hardly anybody has, maybe very few people. And that's just the beginning of even a more solidified Vairagya, all the way up to the Svargaloka, Maharlok, Janlok, Taplok, up to the Brahmalok. Because more and more intense objects of perception show up, that are amazing things show up, which are not in this world. They show up when the yogi is sitting in dhyana, trying to reach the Brahma Vidya, trying to reach the Brahma Tattva, Because the mind is no longer pulled by the Panch Vishayas. See, that's what he's saying. The individual is in a state of jihasa. Tata Vairagyam jihasa ya darshana shravanadibhihi. He's not pulled. The Panch Vishayas are not touching the individual. See, in Vachanamrut, Bhagwan Swaminarayan, he mentioned it this way about himself. He said, Garada Madhya 13, he said, the most attractive Vishayas, if they are there, he says, if I even want to try to bind myself to them, the mind will not be bound, because the mind is so absorbed in the Atma. He's teaching us, showing us his state. The enlightened sages or incarnations of God, they live this way. The objects of the world do not pull their energies away. They're still interacting with them, but they are not in any which way bound by them. And in such a state of living, we are able to actually fully experience each sense object, get the maximum benefit from each sense object for the purpose of Brahma Vidya and Brahma Gnan, and never lose sight of the joy that we are. So the joy is not obtained from the object. The joy is actually only, how can we say this? The joy we're looking for is present all the time, and in that state of joy, everything that is experienced is just connected to that joy. So for example, take somebody like Bill Gates, who is $100 billion man, right? He goes to one of his companies or some other company, and he does a little bit of a tour. Maybe he's doing he wants to try some mechanical job. Some worker is doing some jobs. He also says, I want to try. Now, what is the difference in the state of mind between Bill Gates working on a mechanical job, let's say like fixing an engine or something like that, versus the person who is working there full-time, 40 hours a week fixing an engine? The activity is the same. What is the difference between the two? The first one is doing it in the sense that I have to do this, I have to get a paycheck, there's so much worry, there's fear of getting fired if I don't do the job properly, there's 100 thoughts about this. Usually that would be the case. Someone like the multi-billionaire goes inside there and starts doing the same job. That is called Leela. He's doing it for fun, for play, just to learn something new. He's not doing it to earn money or this and that or to gain position state. He's got everything. Similarly, when an individual has true vairagya, 100% vairagya, this whole world is a leela for that person. Who can touch that individual? Nobody can. Nobody anywhere in the whole Brahmand has the power to touch that individual. In Swamini Vato, Gunatitanand Swamini Vato, he's mentioned that Atmaram છે તેને કઈ જોઈએ જ નહીં in Gujarati. Atmaram means what? You are in that your own joy and the bliss of Paramatma by bhakti. Then wherever that person goes, where is the comparison with such an individual, with the jiva in this world? The bound people in this world compared to liberated beings. Comparison bhi nahi hai uski. There's no comparison. Where is the comparison between Bill Gates, $100 billion man, standing next to the person working on the same project, like fixing a small engine using some tools, with the person who's making $30,000, $40,000 a year? Is there any comparison even of any kind? It is like that. That's why in the Sanatana Dharma, these extraordinary sages popped up. And then they came to give to the world, not to take anything from the world. This is why we have this extraordinary Vivek Chudamani, why we have Vachanamrut, why we have Gita, why we have Brahma Sutras, why we have the Puranas, and why we have Valmiki Ramayana and Tulsi Ramayana and Mahabharata and Vishnu Sahasranam, and why we have these things. They have been given by God in the form of the sages to the world, to liberate the world. And these individuals, they're lions in the forest of Sansar. Nobody can touch them. Even if they are hurt, damaged, imprisoned, killed even, they cannot be touched. And that is a fact. Jesus was crucified. He cannot be touched. So many saints in the Indian tradition have been hurt, been imprisoned, have been criticized, have been so many things, terrible things have been done to them. They cannot be touched. Impossible. The world may do anything. They still don't have negativity towards the world. They still bless the world, and their names are immortalized. We remember Mirabai, for example, that she drank the poison. She cannot be touched. Turned it into Amrut. That is the power of this one word Vairagya. Who can touch you? And once we ourselves connect with this state, who can touch us? That is not ahankar. It is a phenomenal power. And with that power comes great humility and complete freedom, where the raga, dvesha and bhaya, the three things, bhay, krodh, rag, dvesh, aham, mamatva, all this thing is obliterated completely from the system, and one is able to move in this world with success in every area, including the material life. What's the big deal about the material life then? The material life, you deal with it, whatever it has to be done with. It becomes very straightforward, in fact. All the difficulties in the material life begin to dissolve because one is able to interact in the material world without any kind of negative emotion, recognize the material world and its position, decide how much to interact with the material world, and at the same time pray to the goddess Sri Durga Devi for blessings so that we don't get obstructed and trapped inside the material world. This is my clear opinion. Some people may disagree, and that's fine if they want to. But I believe that the Navaran mantra, Om Aim Reem Kleem Chamundai Viche, this is necessary for every human being. And the Namah Shivaya mantra, both are necessary because we're living inside the material world. And yes, if you are a Brahmagnani and you have Vairagya and you are already so evolved and you're not creating trouble for yourself or nobody and the difficulties are not there, okay, maybe you don't need those mantras. But I'm not sure about that. I think as long as there is human body, as long as there is this mixed up sansar with all kinds of raga, dvesha, ahan, mamatva, klesh, wars, all this mess, we need protection. That's why there is Durga Kavach, there is Narayan Kavach, there is Raksha Kavach. How many Kavachas are there inside the scriptures? In Shikshapatri, Bhagwan Swaminarayan mentioned Narayan Kavach. Kavach means it's a shield. You have to be shielded in the sansar, otherwise you cannot do anything in the sansar. The sansar is a hierarchical place based on hurting somebody else to progress, or killing something to progress further. Somebody's progress is somebody's demise. The whole sansar is like that, top to bottom. That's the nature of it. Maybe it can change to some extent. So to be protected from that, to be shielded inside this war, that is why these mantras and the bhakti of Shiva and Shakti is necessary, to be shielded. And then once you are shielded properly, you can move in the world and the circumstances will be around you so that the problems of the world do not touch you in terms of realizing the Brahma Vidya. That is the glory of Shiv Shakti. Because without their blessings, because it is their power that is present everywhere in the Brahmand. And we don't want the problems in the Brahmand. We don't want the problems in the physical body. We don't want psychiatric, psychological problems. We don't want diseases. We don't want problems of any kind. And that is the glory of worshipping the Shivalinga. That is the glory of worshipping the goddess. That is necessary for every human being. It is not about religion. It is not about Hinduism. It is not about any particular group. It is the reality itself. Namah Shivaya mantra is for the whole of humanity, for every being. It's not about Hinduism and temples and all that. That's a way that is expressed. People can sit for Namah Shivaya mantra. They may not even believe in God. It will be helpful for them. Some people try to bypass Shiv Shakti, saying that we can just reach Brahma Vidya like that. No, you're not going to reach anywhere like that. Simply because your internal system is torn apart by Kam, Krodh, Lobh. Bhagwan Swaminarayan, he mentioned Chitta Vibrant. Now, of course, the approach he has shown is that become absorbed in the enlightened sages. But if you get absorbed in the enlightened sages directly into the Gunatit state by Gunatit Sant, then your energies are going to synchronize with that. The Shiv Shakti power within you is going to naturally synchronize even without mantra. But most people are not in that state. I mean, for example, you can see how much time Sachin is trying to spend just to explain what is Vairagya. Explanation is one thing, but to be in that state that he's talking about, now, yes, someone may have an enlightened sage and you are deeply attached, but even from gurus and great sages, do we really want what they have? They have a state of evolution where they are untouched by the world. People are going to sadhus and mahatmas to ask blessings so that they can be more comfortable in the world. How ridiculous is that? Is that what they're there for? They have evolved out of the world. They are there so you'll evolve out of the world. Of course, they have power to help you and bless you and all that thing. But that's not the real thing. That's not what they want to give you. They want to give you what they have, that is vairagya. Now, how can you go to Hanumanji, for example, and said, give me blessings so I can get married to somebody? Is that the right person to go to? He's a brahmachari. How is he's going to give you blessing? He will, in fact, you try to go get into marriage and all that with Hanumanji, it's not going to work. No. You have to go to Shiv and Shakti. That's why in the Hindu temples, there's something called Kalyanam. It's a ritual that is a puja that is done. Have you ever seen a Kalyanam of Hanumanji? No. If you've seen a Kalyanam of Shiv, Parvati, of Radha Krishna, of Sita Ram, not of Hanumanji. Because which form of God or devotees we're worshipping, we should be aware of that. If we're worshipping Hanumanji, he's going to make you strong. Your internal power is for brahmacharya. It's for this vairagya. So this is for grahastha too. But the path is different. That's why you have to go into the tantra scriptures, the non-dual Shaiva tantra, where Shiv Shakti, Ardhanareshwara, you're in a grahastha ashram. Bhagwan Swaminarayan, he mentioned it as Char Charanar Vinyupasana. The same concept is different languages used. That's all. So it depends what we are looking for. We're in the grahasthashram. We don't want problems in the grahasthashram. So the Namah Shivaya mantra, the Navaran mantra, Shiv Shakti ji bhakti hai, it is essential. And then once the stability and good protection is there, then you can go further into the Vivek Chudamani, into other upasanas, Sri Krishna upasana, Swaminarayan upasana, Jesus' upasana, Christianity, anything you want, no problem. But if the base is not there, how can anybody ever progress into this? And then when these kinds of verses that we're looking at right now, this word vairagyam and all these ideas, anitya, the general community, even what we call Hindu community, they don't like all this thing. They said, what is all this? They said, we have a temple in the house. We will do some bhakti, we'll do some puja, maybe have some satsang, maybe do some donation, do whatever. That's okay. We don't want real vairagya. It's a scary word. People get scared of this word vairagya. Because it's been misinterpreted, misunderstood, and misrepresented. But when we realize that no, there is this evolution, as Sachin has been talking about, as what Shankaracharya ji is saying here, there is so much truth that unveils from within. And then what we're looking for is ananda in the grahasthashram or in the ways of the world. Yes, there is no question that there is bhoga. Who's denying that? Even Shankaracharya ji, nobody can deny that there is the experience of enjoyment of the Vishayas. If it wasn't there nobody would be running after them. Of course there's an experience, but what is the nature of that experience as an intellectual human being? We can reflect silently in mananam and chintan and in satsanga. And in that reflection, we come to realize that the objects of the senses are anitya, that the experience of bhoga is anitya. That doesn't mean you are fighting against it and rejecting it and hating it and all that. That's not what that means. It is a realization of what it is as it is. And in that realization, there is then the freedom to interact. Because you have realized it for what it is, you are not looking to find ananda through it. You are enjoying it just for what it is. Like Bill Gates working in a small factory for 7 hours with some employee on some assembly line or something. He's wants that experience deliberately. He's not doing it to earn money or anything like that. He's just doing it to gain that experience, to see what it is. This happened in the life of Shankaracharya. This exact same thing. There was a debate that was held. You might be familiar with this prasang. between Madan Mishra and Shankaracharya. And Madan Mishra says, Shankaracharya, you don't know anything about this Grahastha ashram. You keep talking about this Brahma Vidya and this Atma and this Jagat is unreal and all this thing. What do you know about this world? You don't know anything about what husband-wife relationship is like and all that thing. So Shankaracharya said, you said, you may be right, I need to find out. So a king had died in that area, somewhere where they were. So Shankaracharya ji sat in Samadhi, and this is the story that he entered into the dead king's body. His Chaitanyam went into the dead king's body, and the king became a yogic power. And then the king was alive again. But then the king's queen, the wife, she realized, this is not my husband, somebody else is in here. So Shankaracharya ji, for some period of time, went into the dead king's body, saw the life of the Grahastha, the whole thing, whatever Grahasthas do. He saw everything. He experienced it all. And then he came out of that, the body again was gone, and came back into his own body. And then he won the debate with Madan Mishra. He convinced Madan Mishra exactly what is Grahastha ashram, and there was a long debate that went on, and he accepted defeat, because at that time they would have these discussions. What does that show? That there is nothing greater than Anubhav in life. जीवन का जो अनुभव है, इसके comparison में कोई बात नहीं है. Even Shankaracharya's entire experience about going into the other king's body is about this point. Because he didn't have the experience of what it means to be a Grahastha, what it means to have lots of different attractive objects and to have contact with the queen and all the children and whatever else was there. He was beyond all that, but he needed to see it for himself what it was. Is it not so? This is why the experiences of Prakriti in the Grahastha ashram are a doorway into Brahma Vidya. It is not a place to be trapped in, to be stuck in, to be tormented in. It is a doorway into higher consciousness. How much more can be said? So much more. It's just endless, actually. We'll stop here for today, and we'll continue tomorrow.